Right, back in May this year, I was lucky enough to have an interview with a paranormal investigator based in Liverpool, John Griffiths, a good friend of mine, and I'm pleased to say that I'm back to have another chat and a catch up with him. How you doing, John?
I'm good, thanks, Carl. Thanks for the invite back.
How you been, my friend?
I'm very good. Yeah, Halloween, so fantastic. Nice, quiet night in.
I'm surprised you're not out on investigation.
Pardon?
I'm surprised you're not out on an investigation.
No, we done one on the Friday, which was our Turton Tower one.
Yeah.
Had a bit of a giggle beforehand where we'd done some fancy dressing. Provided tons and tons of sugar for everybody. Lots of sweet. And then we got the serious stuff and done some investigation. Very interesting building.
Yeah.
Dates back to some of the outhouses and one of the original buildings, late 1400s.
Wow. Well.
So,
yeah, go on, sorry.
Quite an interesting building, got a bit of a background to it historically. Home of the Screaming Skulls.
Yes, I've definitely heard of those. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
One of the things as a teenager that I read so much about.
Yeah.
So what happened on this investigation? Any actual activity?
It's not much, to be honest with you. It was very quiet, considering. It was a case of there was little bits. There was things that couldn't be explained. But again, what we say is, although we can't explain it, we don't call it paranormal and allow guests and visitors to make that assumption themselves.
Yeah.
And the reason we do this is because there's no proven science behind what we do. And for us to label it paranormal, even though we're paranormal investigators, is not what we are about. And what we tend not to do it and just say, look, this is for you to make your mind up.
Yeah. Right, now, way back in May, I believe it was about the 5th of May that we done the written blog. You were saying about how you got into the paranormal field after, I believe it was your nan you witnessed after she passed away, like a crisis apparition sort of thing.
Yeah, well, when I was younger, it was just a case of I was upstairs, I was asleep, I was a child. Witnessed my nan sort of coming in to tuck me up. Later on, discovered that she'd been nowhere near the house. She'd actually been in the hospital and she passed away. So yeah, that was probably my first experience as such. Obviously, she was far too unwell to leave the house. And, was not very well. So that was obviously something I couldn't have confused, something I couldn't have sort of imagined.
Yeah.
And it was a case of, the information I gave was sort of at the same time, and parents were a little bit confused to follow, but yeah, it was one of those, just brushed away.
Yeah. So it wasn't so much a case that, we better tell John that Nan's passed away, and then you tell them before they told you, sort of thing.
Well, I told them what had happened. I said, Nan came to see me last night. They both looked at each other and kind of looked at me. And she said, that's nice. And it was sort of an hour or two later, we actually turned around and said, look, you couldn't have seen your Nan. She passed away. She's been in hospital. She was rushed in last night and she's not been well.
Oh, yeah.
But again, I was only a very young child at the time, and I couldn't make sense of it. It was only as I grew older I thought to myself, something's not right there.
How did your parents actually react to the information that you'd given them? Other than was it sort of sweep it under the carpet, he's young, he's imagining, and he might have heard us talking sort of attitude, or did they actually sit you down and say, how did you know this?
No, not really. My parents weren't that, how can I put it, attentive. It was just a case of like, don't be daft, don't be silly. That was the end of it. Stuff like, as I say, a couple of hours later, they informed me what had happened, and that was it, really. They never brought it up again. It was done and dusted.
Got you. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I must admit I am guilty in a sense that my eldest, my 4-year-old, he often mentions people within the room or somebody coming to see him and talking to him, and I must admit at times I do often just brush it off as childhood imagination, or he's playing a game or something like that, you know.
Yeah. I think back when I was younger, well, you're talking sort of like mid-70s-ish, you know, they were kind of taboo subjects. They're not like as open as they are now.
Yeah.
They're not discussed out in the open as much. If you went and tried to talk to anybody about anything like that, it was always kind of ushered into another conversation, or
yeah.
Direction of conversations were changed, and it was kind of definitely taboo. Probably something wrong with it, or worried what others might think because you were demonstrating some sort of interest in it.
Yeah, back then, but I must admit, back in the 70s, the 80s, it was, I know frowned upon is the right word, but it was mocked a lot.
Yes.
I remember being probably about 12, 13 years old, and I woke up one night. My father was at work, my mum was asleep, and I saw an old man standing at the end of the bed. The following day, I described it to my mum, and she said, "Yeah, that's your dad's dad, George." Now, I didn't know how to take this. I've seen him a couple of times more after that, and it was really affecting my schoolwork. And my schoolwork wasn't particularly good because I suffered some mild dyslexia, which I still do. So I went to a teacher that I thought I could trust, and I explained the situation. He went, "Oh, just effing will grow up. You know, ghosts aren't real." Probably about 13 or 14 years after that, I happened to the spiritualist church, and he'd long passed, and he actually came through the medium and went, "You're right." You know, so it was strange. When we spoke in the doing the blog, you mentioned that you have abilities, but you wouldn't class yourself as a medium.
No, I don't. I've got no qualms with anybody who claims or practices anything like mediumship or similar.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it difficult, again, because there's no definitive proof.
Yeah.
That people are what they say they are, but because there's so many fakes and charlatans out there, I don't want to be associated with anything like that.
Yeah.
And kind of mediumship, gets shouted from the rooftops by certain people, as long as it comes with some kind of coin. Years ago, coin and mediumship meant something completely different to what it does now.
Yeah.
You would offer somebody, a thanks, which would be coin, for travelling to see you or to help you out.
Yeah.
Now it's a case of, like, people want to charge the earth. And then, as I say, there are so many people out there who claim to have abilities when they don't. And
see,
I
agree. I totally agree. No, I was just saying I totally agree with you. Sorry.
And it's not so much I claim to have abilities. I never would do in that sense. But what I do say to people is that I sense things, I hear things, I see things. I can't really explain myself, other than how people have explained previously in a paranormal field or in a paranormal description. And when these happen, I just tell people what I've heard or what I've seen or what I've witnessed or smelled or anything like that. And quite often it ties in with things that are environmentally historical or paranormally sort of like own in that location.
Yeah,
and then you've got those people who say, well, you could be just as bad as others, and you could be reading things, and could be sort of like retaining information or so on. But again, I've got no interest in that because I never put myself across as that. I never asked for any money for that. And again, it's just sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's cash, and that's the other part of it. But again, it's like anything. If you practice at something long enough and hard enough, whether it be something like this or even a plasterer or a bricklayer or whatever, over a period of years, you add to those skills, you create something that you think is better, you make it better. You take out the things that don't work, you add things and keep retaining things. Don't, and this is called honing your craft. And it's exactly what it is that I've done and many others have done. And yet there are some genuine ones out there who have abilities, who don't charge, who do help people, and I've got a lot of time for those. But again, I always go back to that. There's no proof, there's no science.
Yeah, see, I used to be a very firm believer of mediums when I was in my younger ages, and then as I hit like me late teens, early 20s and that, because of an incident that happened with my first wife, I've spoken to you about it in PM a long time ago, but I started going to the spiritualist churches, and then I was seeing not just one medium, but several mediums going to people that are clearly in their 70s or 80s, maybe even older, and saying, I feel your mum and dad are over there, and the people walking away and going, wow, she was really good, she picked up mum and dad.
Yeah.
And that really kind of put me off it. But from what you were saying that you get there of, like, in brackets, abilities, to me, from what you've said, that sounds very much like what I've said to you about what I jokingly call my spidey sense. Just suddenly you seem to know something.
You do, yeah. And to be honest, it's not something you always expect, and sometimes it comes out of the blue.
Yeah.
It's more than just an intuition. It's more than just a gut feeling. It's kind of like it's there. It's slapped in the face like a big wet fish, as they say.
Yeah.
And there are those people who I've met sort of like a long time ago, sort of like not so long ago, recently, all through sort of like my life so far, that have suffered the same, and I say suffer because at first you do, and a lot of people when you first start talking to them presume that you may be a little bit depressed and you need your medication up and all, you may need to take some medication if you've got none, and they start thinking that you're some kind of psychotic kind of babbling person who needs to be talking to a psychiatrist, and that's not the case,
Yeah. Now, of late, we've spoken about this a few times in chat and in the group and all that, about, obviously I can't say any particular names because of legal reasons I'm being sued, but famous so-called mediums and these TV shows and all that. Now, I want to focus more on the actual TV shows more than the mediums. Obviously, yes, it's entertainment. At the end of the day, they're paranormal investigators, but they're also actors at the same time. They need to look the right part and act right and all that for that. But do you feel like there's been a change in these TV programs? Because I don't tend to watch them. I've watched a few recently. I've got back into GHI, for instance, because I'm hoping very soon to have an interview with Rob Demarest. But I've noticed on the few that I've flicked through that it tends to be, oh yes, it's definitely a demon you've got in your house. There seems to be a trend at the moment of everything's demonic.
It does, and to be honest, it's not just recently. It's always been the case. You have several different types of people within the paranormal circle, so to speak. But you have those that always kind of focus on that negative energy, because that negative energy brings attention. They obviously need attention of some sort. But regards to TV programs, I haven't really kind of watched a lot of them myself. Uh, Most Haunted I kind of never really watched
No.
until recently, and that was only because of them going to a location that we had done, and I just wanted to verify some things.
Yeah.
Uh,
On that location, did they get anything that your team had actually got?
Sorry, repeat that, please.
When Most Haunted went to that location, and that you were saying about wanting to verify, did they actually pick up anything that you and your team had managed to pick up?
No comment.
Oh, right, okay. You don't need to there. Yeah, I think.
Again, for legal reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and going on to sort of like other TV programs, I never kind of really watched them because for a period I tried to sort of like shut it out of my life because of so many things that happened that kind of scared me a little bit. And sort of like when I did kind of become really interested in it, programs like Taps and GHI had come back, had come onto the TV screen, and I watched them with some interest, and I thought it looks like people are approaching this in a more
more scientific approach, yeah.
Kind of, avenue, and I thought, well, that looks interesting. That actually may be able to sort of like answer some questions for me, and I was very inquisitive then, and I came back into it, and I sort of like pursued that angle more than anything else, just to try and sort of like get some clarity on things. But I think with TV programs, what tends to happen is they start off with good intent.
Yeah.
They gain an audience, and then through that sort of like longevity of the program, they lose some of that audience, and too many contracts, they become under pressure, and they have to rethink and reinvent the shows. And the way that they do that isn't always what their public viewing wants, and comes across negatively or badly.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I do agree with that, to be honest. They reckon that statistically, they reckon that I believe it's something like 0.01% of paranormal evidence is actually literally unexplainable, and is, if in brackets, ghosts and spirits are real.
Yeah.
But why do you feel that, say for instance, I've told you about many of the occurrences I've had, you've spoken to me about the occurrences you've had, and like Chris Houston, for instance, he's had a lot, whereas other people might only have, say, one occurrence in their life and then nothing, and some might never have it. Why do you feel this is?
I suppose some of it comes down to a person's outlook and perspective. Some people kind of shun away from it and don't acknowledge it and don't want to acknowledge it. Other people have got more of a kind of practical way of looking at things, and they don't kind of believe in anything like that. And I suppose until they're put into those situations, they won't. And there are those people who have beliefs, hopes, wanting to know that there's something else out there beyond, what we're doing now, which is living. And we are all very different beasts, and I think because of that, we all have very different perspectives. But there are sort of like little groups of people who just sort of like go around investigating and researching, and then there's other people who just don't have time for it in their life. Some are more practical and methodical, and then again, some people have faith and wouldn't dare look sort of like anywhere near that kind of little corn. Those things are for fear of judgment, and not just in this life, but beyond that life.
No. And you make some good points there, but I think in some ways that also, to a degree, harks back to what you're saying about like when we were younger, because we're a relatively similar age, of like people mocking it and all that as well. and
Yeah.
maybe it's the fear. If well, I have my beliefs, you have your beliefs, but some people it might be like the fear of, well, if I believe in ghosts and spirits and afterlives and demons and this and that and the other,
Yeah.
and I tell people about that, and I've never actually seen anything, well, I'll be like, well, you're stupid for believing in something you've never seen.
Yeah, well, some people can't accept what's out there on the facts that are in front of them, and unless it's there in black and white, sort of like slapping them in the face, then they won't acknowledge it because of the lack of evidence, the lack of proof, that 0.001%. It makes it all the more difficult. But going back to kind of what you were saying before, there are those people, more so years ago, a lot less now, who do have faiths, have religions, and to even think of anything paranormal or anything that would go against the church, they would be mocked, they would be shamed. Some were even outcast many, many years ago.
Yeah.
And again, sort of like when we were children, as you say, we're at similar ages, that kind of was one of the main reasons why it was more true then than it is now.
Yeah. What's your take on the fact there's been more and more stuff coming out recently from science, to be honest. They believe in, science are actually starting to believe more the paranormal and the afterlife and things like demons and gods and things like that made more feasible than was previously thought. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, again, it's kind of people wanting something, people want to know, what's next. They don't want to sort of like just think about what's happening now. And some people do want reassurance, they want to make sure that the decisions they make in this life are good for the next, or, can take them somewhere in the next. But I think as well there is a renewed interest, like you say, because we have sort of like developed in sciences, we have developed in technologies.
Yeah.
I think from sort of like, say the late 70s, possibly early 80s, into kind of like the mid 90s, late 90s, paranormal almost seemed to be forgotten.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of investigation into it, science or technology-wise, for some reason. And I think it was because people thought, we've proved it doesn't exist, we've proved it doesn't happen. And then again, with this newfound sort of like police system that came about for some reason, that there was more out there, then, some technologists started looking for answers again, which is something they hadn't done for almost sort of like, like a period of 16, 17 years.
Yeah. See, it's like one thing I have noticed more so this year than any previous years is one of the latest things seems to be on sites like eBay, for instance. I have a doll that's haunted, or I have a mirror that's haunted. Do you think it's literally just a fad, a way of getting rid of old tat that you don't want, that you can't get rid of? Do you think
again,
like a trend sort of thing?
It's different because, some people, they're trying to cash in on it. They're trying to, get that coin like some of those others that we were discussing earlier. But with their new skills, these particular people are just getting rid of old antiques. And then there are those people who believe that sort of like they do have something genuine, and they want to get rid of it, and they want somebody to look after it, like these people who stick them in glass cases and put them in museums, so to speak. Again, it falls down to the person, again, who's selling it, who's departing with it. If they're genuine, or they believe they're genuine, or they have cause for concern, then it will be just a case of like, look, I'm advertising it, you can have it for a penny. Just get shut of it, come and take it. I don't want it falling into somebody's hands who can't deal with it, or I don't want this inflicting any pain or suffering on someone. And then you're going to have those other people who are going to like, well, I want 200, 300 quid, I want some kind of notoriety out of it, or contact.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, it's different personalities, but I think because of the increase now with with the amount of shows that are on the TV and, you know, on the internet medias, bloggers, all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are more people out there. There's that bigger audience again with Big Disappear for quite some time. And I think, personally, it's down to all these Sky TVs, Virgin Medias, now TV packages that are out there, you know, that are creating more and more channels of interest. Like years ago, we never used to have programs about gold divers, you know, programs about sort of like Alaskan bus people.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, the TV, that's the media looking for all these programs that people may have some interest in.
Yeah.
That may just sort of like want to, you know, watch it, it might be interesting. I think because of that, you know, bigger audience through those subscriptions on the TV channels and companies, that, you know, there are things out there that are off the back of that, like haunted objects on eBay, etc.
So I do feel that like paranormal has definitely come more into the fore lately. Obviously, at the moment we've got Halloween, so as a run up to Halloween, you get the supermarket adverts with like people dressed up and things. But I have noticed over the last few months there'll be, as I don't know, for instance, like an advert for a toilet cleaner, and it'll have a ghost put in there. As like, for instance, you know, it does seem to be becoming more and more. I don't know if it's more and more popular, but it's more and more out in the open.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's modern marketing because it's been accepted now. You know, in the mainstream media, you know, like, go back to what I was saying before. You know, when we were children, there was people who went to church a lot. You know, look at it sort of like figures then to figures now. You know, there was a lot more people in churches. There was a lot more people who believed in religions now. Sort of like, again, because of people's outlooks and their children's outlooks, you know, they've kind of shunned religion or chose not to grow up with religion. Because of that, to finish, that's kind of, you know, disappeared almost. Those sort of like subjects, they're in the open now. People talk about them freely. And this is not just sort of like in the paranormal fields, it's about, you know, many other things in the media, like such as race, such as gender. You know, the life and times of people now is a lot more out there, a lot more in the open, in sort of like media. And that includes paranormal.
Do you believe then, like, possibly that, for want of a better way of putting it, the paranormal field is becoming the new religion? That people are turning away from the churches, and the numbers basically are lower in churches, but people still getting into the paranormal because I'm not going to church, but just in case I'm wrong about stopping going to church, I still want to know what I'm looking ahead at.
I wouldn't say that paranormal's sort of, you know, taking anything away from the church, and I wouldn't say, you know, it would replace church. I kind of do agree with you in some respects that people now hedge their bets with different things rather than just one thing, just as that kind of backup plan. Yeah, definitely.
Back in May, when I was when you was kind enough to give me the time to do that blog interview with you, you mentioned, I asked you a question about one of the more active cases that you'd taken part in, and that, and you mentioned, I believe it was St. Oh God, trying to think back now. I believe it was St. George's.
St. George's Hall.
That's the one. Yeah. Sorry, my brain went dead there. So apologies. Could you give us a brief statement about what happened there?
Yeah. Well, it's just a case of, like, I was out investigating with somebody, and I don't normally kind of get involved in vigils. I normally kind of run the vigil. And this particular time, there was a lack of volunteers, should we say. And I felt to carry it forward, then it was probably a good idea for me to jump in and fill that void. And whilst I was within this vigil, I lost a good 10 minutes of memories.
Wow.
A good 10 minutes of being awake. I couldn't remember what had happened, and people told me what had happened, and I couldn't remember that. And it was almost kind of like somebody being under hypnosis and not having any conscious awareness of that time frame. And to this day, I still can't remember it. I can only remember what happened.
Have you sort of like looked into trying to find out what happened in that 10 minutes, other than like what people have told you? Has it like come through in dreams or hints of memories or flashbacks at all?
No, not at all. It's completely blank. Genitals I've got to go on is what people say. One of them is my son, so he's not going to, tell me anything that's untrue, and he's going to tell me what happened. And he's at that kind of age where he's cocky and truthful and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Your group Fourth Element, can you tell us what you've been up to recently with those?
Well, yeah, we've kind of slowed down a little bit this year. Last year we went kind of like hell for leather.
Yeah, it seemed almost daily last year.
Yeah, well, we did fit in an amazing 49 investigations in 52 weeks.
Blimey.
We were kind of non-stop. In between that, we were obviously doing other things as well. And again, it was that kind of time period for the company, I suppose, where sort of like we've gone from establishing ourselves to just running, and then to sort of like saying, well, what's the next step? And that was kind of our next step. And this year we've kind of slowed down a little bit, and we've only done sort of like events kind of every other week, really.
Mm-hmm.
This year we took a holiday for 2 weeks, which we didn't do the year before or the year before, and that was just basically because we had so much invested in trying to put the company on the map.
Yeah.
That has happened now. If you go onto any search engine and you search paranormal groups near me, or paranormal groups in an area we're kind of close to, like Merseyside or Northwest or Liverpool, we pop up in those searches now. And again, it's all through sort of like all the hard work that we've done, and all the hard work that sort of like put us back, well, a little bit on the map, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder in the area we live, where there used to be sort of like 2 or 3 paranormal research companies or ghost hunt companies. There's now kind of like a naught on that, so it's kind of like more 30 now than 3.
It's like that. It's like that with tattooists, where in the town where I live. It started out with 3 or 4, and there's over 60 of them there now. So people, it's like you said, people jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah, so we've had a lot to contend with, and what we tried to do is we tried to stay true to our values, our beliefs, the ethics that we started the company off with, the missions, the mission statements, and we've stayed true to that. But it has been hard because lots and lots of companies have popped up out of nowhere, or we've kind of disagreed and with each other and kind of moved on separately, and it tells a little bit, it strains a little bit, but we've not fallen out with anybody, and we've just kind of get it. I do find
within the paranormal,
give back
yeah,
what we can.
I do find within the paranormal field there's a hell of a lot of backstabbing.
Yeah,
or they can. I'll correct myself. They can be.
I started off PSN sort of, a long time ago. You're one of the admin on there.
Yeah.
The idea behind, the Paranormal Supernatural Network, or PSN as it's nicknamed, was kind of to create or work with some kind of para-unity.
Mm-hmm.
and I was quite naive in the sense when I set it up in the hope. Well, I was quite naive, to be honest with you. Yeah, full stop. I kind of had sort of like the dream, I suppose.
Yeah.
Not so much the dream. I had the impression that, you know, people may want to share venue information with each other, or they may want to share equipment if somebody didn't have some, and something like they may be able to get the foothold in the door for someone, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was me being naive, and actually, you know, it was kind of romanticised in my head and all that, and then I realised that people may be sort of like borrowing equipment or not giving it back, or sort of like people, you know, people reporting to me that they've lent out equipment in the past, they've learnt the hard way, it come back broken.
Yeah.
People give people information sort of like to help them get into venues, and then sort of like gain contracts with them and get them out, and you know, just silly little things. And I did realise that it kind of, again, it goes back to those different types of people, those different types of personalities. Some want to help, some don't want to help, some want to abstain, and some want everything. And it all kind of fell apart on that side of things, PSN. And it became, again, just sort of like a forum, a network of people who wanted to go on.
It seems to be people who just want to go on and argue now, really.
Sorry?
It just seems that on a lot of groups, people go on there. Okay, you will have people that have a set idea and they won't change it, or like I like to do, I like to learn as well as try and teach as well. But nowadays, a lot of it seems to be just go on there to belittle people a lot of the time.
Yeah, people want to advertise for free. People want to, you know, get something. They want people to join their own groups. They want, you know, clickbait is advertising. Yeah. And then there's all these lovely people who post their Ugg boots and handbags and pornographic videos.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's those trolls and so on and so forth, and it's made it difficult for those groups on social media, and social medias have had to reconstruct themselves to sort of like prevent it, because so many of us who've got groups have complained about it for so long, and social media sites have come a long way compared to what they used to be.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember when I first joined Facebook, you could only post, I think it was 55 characters.
Yeah.
You wanted to tell a story, that story had to be done in 3 posts.
Yeah.
But it's come a long way. It's listening to the people, but at the same time, it's taking a lot of things away that people took for granted and are no longer available.
And
but again, that's that different personalities.
Yeah, unfortunately, we got such a wide variety of people on this planet. There's no one will always agree. I think I first started joining groups as I've had my experiences, I have my opinions. I wanted to learn. I sometimes just I'll read constantly trying to learn, and then there'd be people going, "Oh, you're an idiot," and all this, that, and the other. As well, I had someone earlier today on one of the other groups, and I was, "Oh, well, you think you're an expert," and reading back, I wanted to check just to make sure. And you know yourself, I've never claimed myself to be an expert. I have a knowledge within the field, but I'm also willing to learn. But people just constantly want to go and go. With your group Fourth, is there? I'm sorry, apologies. What was you going to say there?
No, should I agree?
Yeah. With your group Fourth, have you got anything in the work, shall we say? Anything big coming up?
Yeah, it's not my company. I'm part of it.
Apologies. Yeah.
There are 3 of us, and I always remind us they're just as important as I am, and it is, you know, who we are. Yeah, we've got things in the pipeline, kind of thing, as everyone does. You know, again to sort of like create that continuing success. We've got new venues that we've not done before. We've got kind of like a big a bigger area covered this year, I suppose. We're going further afield. And again, that's not so much because we want that, it's because our customers are asking for that. So it's nice to get that feedback off them as well. We try and keep sort of like real. We get offered things regularly. We get offered interviews. We get offered shows. We get offered all sorts of like little things, and you know, again, we try and keep true to what we've got and go off on doing things that don't really have much of an interest for us. But again, we don't want to lose what we are. You know, the groups out there who don't really know what we want or haven't got a clue where we want to go. Then there's those who are kind of fame hungry, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's those who want more out of it than, you know, what they've got, which we kind of don't want, I suppose, you know. We just say, look, this is what we do, this is what we're happy doing for the moment. That could change, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it has done in the past. But at the moment, we're those people who've got a face for radio, we don't really want to be on TV.
Yeah, I know.
You know, we're okay for sort of like the odd little interview here and there like this, you know, with people who you know and trust. And again, we're not after kind of any limelight, we're not kind of after anything out of it other than what we get out of it, which is enough for us. You know, we still have a passion for it, we still want to find that truth, and we try our best to make sure that that's what we do. There are people out there who come on our investigations who don't agree with us, and there are people who we come across, you know, in public and on forums and so on, who have different perspectives and ideas.
Mm.
But again, that's ours, and we have ours, and we always say, look, ours is just as important as yours, and yours is just as important as ours.
Well, I'm going to have to cut it short there, John, because we're going up to the time. I'd like to thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Coming and talk to me. And with that, I shall say, watch the shadows because they're among us. Thanks a lot and goodbye.